Good evening, everyone. You are listening to the BBC, the only reliable source of information in these uncertain times. First of all, let's talk about sports. It's official. This year's Olympic Games in Japan have been suspended because of the Japanese-Chinese War. Then culture, as Scott Fitzgerald wins the Pulitzer Prize for his novel, The Great Gatsby. Finally, let's get to the heart of the matter over the last few days. Dunkirk, in France. But beforehand, let's set the scene.
In May 1940, the situation was more than critical. The Führer's troops had already invaded half of Europe as we know it. Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Belgium all have fallen, and now it was the turn of the French to suffer the devastating effects of the terrifying German blitzkrieg. Their funny war was over. The serious business began. France, believing its Maginot Line to be invincible, had underestimated the power of the Reich, which had penetrated the country through the Ardennes forest.
Panic-stricken, the Franco-British armies had to withdraw as quickly as possible to minimize human and material losses. They ended up in the town of Dunkirk in Normandy. But things took an unexpected turn. The Allies had hoped to hold out long enough for reinforcements to arrive, so that they could fight as equals against the German troops. However, the British Major State, sensing that a monumental debacle was looming ever closer, decided to cut its losses and launched Operation Dynamo on 26th of May, a vast operation to extract British soldiers back to the United Kingdom. The British had not informed their French brothers in arms of this operation.
The French found out about the operation on the same day as the boats began evacuating the British troops. So they tried to get on board, but also some succeeded. The majority were not accepted on board and were left behind. Whether it was a selfish decision on the part of Westminster or a natural prioritization of the lives of its own men, whatever the case, the evacuation went ahead. In London, Churchill described the operation as a miracle of deliverance, and even as if there was a victory in that deliverance. Obviously, not everything went as perfectly as the news sources contemporary with the battle described it. In truth, the reality was far more disastrous than it appears. The waters around Dunkirk were swampy and the Royal Navy ships were stuck in the mud, so ferries and small boats had to be used to get the troops to the warships. Only a small number of men were evacuated.
What's more, the glorious British army did not behave so gloriously on the ground, looting the town, deserting the ranks to ensure survival, and so on. The evacuation fueled the French hatred against British people who had cowardly abandoned them to their fate on the beach of this charming Normandy town. Even Winston Churchill, Prime Minister and war hero, privately accepted that the Battle of Dunkirk was, is and will be for centuries to come surely the greatest military debacle in history. The results of Dunkirk were disastrous. 2,500 weapons, 84,500 vehicles, 77,000 tons of ammunition, 416,000 tons of supplies, and 165,000 tons of oil were abandoned to the Nazis. What's more, 68,000 men were left behind. These men died or were taken prisoner by the Reich, or even sentenced to forced labor in Germany.
In short, having disentangled the true from the false, we can describe the Battle of Dunkirk as the very opposite of a victory. It was a major humiliation for the Allies, who were forced to abandon the site of the battle in the face of the might of the German army. However, England had to forbid the myth in order to keep the population's morale high and give them enough courage to face the rest of the war. Finally, a petition is currently being circulated throughout the United Kingdom with the aim of building a memorial to the soldier who fell at Dunkirk. May God make it possible. This was a newsreel presented by the BBC, and we thank you for coming and wish you a very pleasant evening.